Hello world, it's Angelat, and I want to show you how to turn a D3 chart into a reusable chart. This in general is a good practice to make your code more reusable, extendable, and make it easier for other people to make use of whatever nice visualizations you come up with. Mike Bostock has written a nice article explaining the concept here. I will try to get across the main points in this short video, but you can refer to it here once you have this link. And the example I want to use is from, this is the D3 homepage. I'm going to go to the examples, and then down here there is the basic charts section. So I'm just going to take the bar chart, and we will take this code here, put it in tributary, and then turn it into a reusable chart function step by step. So hopefully after this you will also be able to turn your visualizations into reusable charts. Now I do want to take a few seconds to talk about another reason this is important. For the last 8 or 9 months, one guy named Bob Monteverde and several members of the community have been building a pretty impressive charting library, and it's just a collection of a lot of nice charts. But the company that this was done for has somehow decided that they no longer want it to be open source, and they claim that it was not ever authorized to be open source, although there is evidence to the contrary. So, you know, as a community, this was actually really nice. It's a good way for people to get into using D3, and it's really unfortunate that they decided to be weird like that. So, you know, in response, we're going to have to remake it. Hopefully we can use some of the contributions of the community that have already been made. But if you all know how to make your own reusable charts, we can rebuild much quicker. So let us do that. Now, for all visualizations, the first thing you need is your data. So I'm going to take this TSV, copy it into here, just call it frequency.tsv, paste it. This is a tributary specific thing, so I can now say my data is equal to tributary.freq, and that's just from the file name. So you see, we'll go to the console. Here's my array. Letter A has that frequency. You know, in this example, use d3.tsv to fetch the data remotely. Where you get the data from is not a big deal, but what you do with it is what matters here. So the general use case for a reusable chart is that you will already have your data, and you will want to you know, put that into some chart that someone's made for you. Before I go any further, we need to start the music. Alright, now so what's going on here is that when you get something from a TSV or CSV, the data is a string. So here we're converting it to a number. This is JavaScript's shorthand way of turning a string into a number. Now, let's use this data somehow. Close that. Alright, close this too. So I can take most of this code to start with. I'm just going to grab this setup code, is like the margin, formatting, some scales and axes, and we're just going to paste it here. And so we're going to just make this work first, and then we're going to, you know, piece by piece format it correctly. Now I'm just going to take this group from this SVG because we don't need to append an SVG to our document here, because tributary provides us with an SVG element, but you know, in your code you'd have to provide your own SVG element, however. So far this is kind of like the data comes first. These are the dimensions that you want for the chart. We have our SVG, and we're going to append this group that we're going to draw our chart into. So then I can come down here and just copy this stuff from inside the TSV function. Since we already have our data, we can just do this. And I'll put it below here. And there's our chart. One thing I'm going to do is, instead of saying SVG, I'm just going to do G. I'm going to save this as the G element. So now it's, it has its margin. It's 960 pixels. We can make this much smaller. Doesn't matter. Make it pretty small. Okay. Now we have all this drawing code here, and what we want to do is put all of this in a function. So actually we're just going to start up just straight up. All of this is going to go into function bar chart. And of course nothing will draw anymore. Now here is where we do the pattern for making a Fluent API. So we're going to make another function inside here called chart. And this is going to take a G element. And I'll explain why very shortly. And we're going to return chart. So when you call this function, you'll get back this function. And this function will take in a group element that you can draw into. So now if we say, bars is bar chart, and then we do bars G, we get our graph back. And this is nice because we can now decide to have several graphs on the page. So we can make a second group. Maybe move this over like 600, and then we'll just call bars G2, and we get our graph again. And let's make it width even smaller so we can fit both. Okay, so now we have two bar charts, same code. But you probably could have done that without this extra wrapper, right? So why do that? That's because we probably want these two graphs to be different. Like we probably want, this one to have different data than that one. So to demonstrate that, let's actually make another data set. Oops, I should have called it the same thing. I'll call it thread2.tsv. And let's just make these numbers like a bunch bigger. So like the first several numbers should be way different when we get done with this. So I'm just going to copy this and make our second set of data. And now how do I tell my bar chart that it has two different data sets? Well, I can define a data variable up here. And then down here, this is where like the real meat of the reusable chart stuff happens. We define a getter setter function. So we do chart.data equals function some value, and we say if there are arguments dot length is 0, we just return data. So that's the data that's here, right? And we can just make this a like empty array for now. Then, so that will return that. But if it's not, we say data equals value. And so this data is within the scope of this outer function, right? I mean within, yeah, this function. And it's used in here. So if we say .data data, that should have worked. Oh, we got to return chart here, sorry. So now we have the same data for both again. But before we call the second one, we can do data 2, and now we have this data set. So if we change the number here, you can see that. Or if we change the number here, see it there. Now we have two different data sets, same code, But you know, what if we want to lay them out differently or do different, like have different sizes, all kinds of stuff. Usually you'll do something like having your width and your height be variables. So now they both have the same, let's make this like 300 so they don't overlap. And we do the same pattern here for width and height. And I normally would use Vim and search and replace with regex, but do what we can. So for this one, see I'm chaining here too, right? Like bar chart of data dot width, and this is the other nice thing about it. You can kind of configure your chart before you do it. But I can decide that here for the second one, I want the width to be even smaller. Now I'm just changing this one. That's no lie. Alright. Okay, so we can change width, height. So any other variable in here that you want to have, you know, be configurable, changeable somehow, you just make another getter setter and change, you know, make sure you have it set up in this context, and this function can be, you know, drawing. Now you probably need another video, I want to keep this one short, but where you use the enter, update, exit pattern to make it so that you can call this chart over and over again, so when the data updates, you know, and it doesn't keep appending axes, like this would actually reappend all this stuff. So the next video will cover that, but I think this should get you started with the general update pattern, the general reusable chart pattern, and making some replacements for those other nice charts we saw. Alright, so get to it. Laters.